You're about to discover 4 actions so potent they have the power to revive any marriage, no matter the situation.
She was in another affair, like literally right around the street from my house. I'm being honest, if it wasn't for your program, my marriage would be gone. I have balls to bones conviction that that is absolutely true. Without your program, I would have not have survived. My marriage would not have survived.
Spiro's talking about our program, which gave him the tools, the strategy, and the support to turn the impossible into progress. There is 4 tools to be exact that I'm going to share with you in today's video.
I remember when she finally lost her mind and basically told me, I want a divorce, I'm done.
The second one has the power to instantly melt her defenses and recreate those moments where, she stares at you just a little bit too long. She laughs at all your jokes. She smiles when you touch her. Those moments that you deserve.
And slowly but surely, I would watch her mood change. Little by little, it would all start.
So let's jump in. His marriage had fallen so far off course, it was barely even recognizable to him.
But there's so much damage that's been done over time. I mean, I had a long time affair. It started with me. I remember when she finally lost her mind and basically told me, I want a divorce, I'm done. And I remember I had to really go home and sit back and think to myself, like, how did we come to this?
Yet despite betrayal from both sides, in the moment where she hit her breaking point, he found a way to breathe new life into their marriage. Now he's standing in a new chapter. Not everything is healed, of course not. It's a lifelong process, but they're finally on the same side again, committed to rebuilding honesty, strength, and vision. So what did he do to get there? Well, he followed a 4-step blueprint within the program. Steps that gave him the structure to lead with clarity, to rebuild trust, and reconnect on a deeper level.
Your program really helps stage by stage articulate, stop doing this, do this. Don't do this, do that. And if you really want to win her back, this is exactly what you need to do. And it was like basically a perfect blueprint.
And it starts with this next crucial step, because if you breathe new life into your marriage without doing this, you'll stay stuck in the same loop of just being confused, frustrated, and spinning your wheels. And I don't want that for you. Now, Spiro introduces this step with a statement that every husband who wants to save his marriage needs to hear, because this is what real commitment sounds like.
My philosophy was, before I walk away from this marriage, I have to make absolutely sure that I did everything in my power. I gave it everything I had to the last death of me, that I was going to make this work, and I did everything I could to make it work, irrespective of what she does, right? I had to own my own truths.
That conviction pushed him to take real action, but it also meant facing something brutal. He couldn't blame her. You can't blame her, not even when she was in the middle of an affair.
And at the time, she was in another affair, like literally right around the street from my house. And unfortunately, I had to own that because, hey, look, I did a lot of dumb things myself. And I said, look, for me to live up to what I have to live up to, it goes back to what you've talked about in the program. It doesn't matter what you've done, right, or whatever, it doesn't matter what she's doing. It matters what I do.
You see, he did what a very apex strongman does. He stepped up and owned it. He took ownership of his half of the marriage that collapsed, no matter how messy or one-sided it looked. So even with the pain of her affair, when he dug down to the root of it all, he saw the ways that he contributed to it. And over the years, by pulling away when things got hard, by shutting down during arguments, instead of leaning in, by putting work first and missing the little moments that made her feel seen, by brushing off her feelings, by trying to fix them instead of listening. That's what disconnection and emotional neglect can look like. And it builds up until the distance between you two feels impossible to cross. But what does actually owning it look like? It looks like sitting alone with your mistakes without trying to defend them as much as every part of you wants to find rationale and reasons as to why it's not your fault or as much as your fault. You let go of that scorecard, and instead you show up as the man that you know you should have been, whether she sees it or not. That's what sacrifice is in a relationship. And that's what a man does to take the lead. When you take full responsibility for your role, you regain power to change it. Let that sink in, play that back. And for him, that's where everything began.
I think you got to recognize where it is that you've made mistakes. In some cases, it's like, if you're the one who started the affair, you can say, hey, I recognize that I hurt someone and I made mistakes. If they're the one who started the affair, you got to recognize, well, no one just starts an affair for no reason. You've got to recognize the fact that, hey, it took whatever, me not being attentive, me not listening, me not showing up for her, me not, whatever, fill in each blank. It took me being that person to recognize that, her change in who she became versus who we once were became this because of the fact that I didn't do my job. as a man.
And so like that goes along the idea of like getting your ego out of the damn way, because your ego, not yours specifically, but our ego as men, that's what gets in the way a lot of times of the growth, right? Because your ego has to, parts of you have to die off essentially for you to grow. And accepting that you made mistakes is killing off the ego in a way. But as much as that might sting, to really truly own it, it's actually just the beginning. You see, there's another step that he took, and it's the one that changes how she really feels personally, her emotionally around you. It's what makes her stop bracing for impact in those moments, to close herself off, to have her be cold and tense. Instead, it softens her and it helps her relax in your presence, even when she's emotional. Here it is in his words.
What I'm definitely not doing is once I see stuff sitting in the fan, like, nope, frame on. I think the hardest thing for me is not even just with Liz, even like, I'm that old school, like Greek, it's like almost like Greek Italians, like how we all are, like, especially us East Coasters. It's almost like, when somebody does something, like you're taught from a child to react a certain way, like, you gotta, be forceful, you gotta be tough, or you gotta be whatever.
Now he says frame on because that's exactly what he's doing. You notice how he's calm, he's steady, how I am right now when I'm talking to you. He's watching the storm instead of getting sucked into it. And that's the second step. It's about the frame. It's called frame up, okay? Frame is about holding steady in your emotional center. It's about remaining mindful, not mindless, okay? You can take in what she says and what she's giving you and truly receive it, hold space for it, but you don't react to it, okay? Her storms, her accusations, her emotions, they're just emotions. That's all they are. They don't change who you are as a man. They should not change who you are as a man. And when she unloads about work, family, or the kids, you don't try to solve that problem for her. You simply allow her to solve it herself unless she directly asks you for logistical help.
You always say, like, you're not here to fix people's problems. And I used to do it all the time. Like, here's what you need to do. You need to tell your boss this. She doesn't want to hear that. It's just, you got it.
Essentially, all you're doing is you're letting her feel the emotions. I used to be obsessed with chess. I had my whole chess phase. And it's almost like playing chess in a high stakes game. That pressure's building, right? The clock's ticking away. You don't have much time because you're playing blitz. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. And then you just get hit with a bold move and you're sitting there. Maybe puts you in check and you don't want to sacrifice this pawn or whatever it is because you'll lose. But instead, you don't flinch. You study the board despite how much time is left and you wait for the right moment to respond. You let that moment come to you, the right decision, okay? That's what the frame up looks like. But it's harder than it sounds because, like Spiro mentioned, it's ingrained deep in us as children to react, right? We're taught that way. But that's a child and part of development as an adult. As someone who can hold space for her and protect her, what she wants, you need to learn the skill of not reacting anymore.
I don't even think she knows how to handle the new me sometimes. She still doesn't know how to always react. Even now with my kids, like, she's like, I remember my daughter did something really stupid and she looked at me, she's like, you're not going to say anything? And I'm like, what would you like me to say? Or like in the past, I'd like lose because that's how we did it. That's how you were taught to react. And that's what your parents did. And that's what you did. Now I realize even doing that with my kids is a reflection and a reaction that she's expecting me to be difficult or be tough. And like, no, like staying in my frame, even in those situations and like allowing her to react, right? Like to your point, being calm.
When you do this, she can't deny the difference, okay? The instant difference in who you are as a man. I mean, it gave him strength. It rebuilds trust and respect because you don't crumble in her tests. And she's subconscious. If you watch this channel, she subconsciously tests you. She holds the belief subconsciously, unknowingly, that if my man, the man that I'm supposed to love, breaks down under my tests, how can he withstand the world's test? Even if you think you can, she doesn't feel that way if you break down under hers. She needs a man to look up to. And if you're reacting to things she's saying, your self-worth is falling apart because of a few words she says to you, you're not the man anymore, are you? Listen to him describe it.
One of your other videos talks a lot about like, hey, like, what are your values, right? Like, do you even know what your values are? Could you list your top 3 or 4 values? And that's like, I thought to myself, like, well, I have a lot of values. I'm a good guy. I'm honest. I'm devoted. But like, he's got a good point. Like, what do I live by every day, right? What are the 2 or 3 values like that I live by every day? How do you own those every day? How do you keep an edge to yourself as a guy?
See, he had to learn to stand tall. A lot of men, they'll think about their values, but they don't live through them. This is called congruency, okay? Every moment he showed up with discipline. He made decisions based on who he wanted to be, the man he wanted to embody, the values that he had. He said, what are my values in the situation and how do I uphold them? And consistently over time, your wife will notice these things. She has this subtle little barometer, this feeling, this intuition of your congruency, of who you say you are, who you want to be versus actually who you are.
And until you actually start peeling and scrubbing that off and start making that your daily focus every single day, nothing's really going to change. Like, you're kidding yourself. You're full of shit. Like, if you really think that things are going to get better, they're not. Things aren't going to get better. Things are only going to get better when you recognize you have a problem, when you recognize what it is you can do about it, and when you're actually going to take the time and the energy to put out the work to do it.
Psychologists call this self-determination theory. It shows that when you live by your core values, no matter how you feel in the moment, okay, key word, you strengthen your identity. You build deeper confidence, stronger habits, and a sense of purpose, all masculine traits that draw her back in and make her more feminine, relaxed, and open. And the people closest to you begin to trust your consistency because they see it in how you show up every single day. And I would be lacking congruency myself as a man if I didn't tell you, hey, the best way for you to actually get help, to change your situation, to be on the next video of a guy saving his marriage that I talked to personally, is to get on a call with our team for the free strategy call. Just make sure you're fully invested into saving your marriage, and we'll get you on that call. We'll give you the exact blueprint that you need to move forward like Spiro. Now, I mentioned the word consistency, okay? This final step is what keeps the momentum alive. It connects all the other steps cohesively together. It's what can make your wife stop wondering if you've changed and start trusting that you are, okay? Let's hear from Spiro again.
You got to be willing to put in the work, and you have to be willing to, like, use all the different tools that are available to you. Like, there's so many different books, whether that's the books you recommend, the work you recommend, it's if you're not doing all that, it's not going to work. That's my view of it. I mean, you can't possibly, move forward or move ahead unless you actually put in the time.
The step that he is talking about is simple, but demanding. It's about leading on. It means leading on two fronts. See, there's internal leadership, doing the hard reps when no one's watching, okay? Choosing the better response in that tough moment when everything inside of you is screaming to just, oh, it's not fair, or I should say this to her. No, you're choosing a new response, and that gets a new outcome, doesn't it? That's what becoming a new man is. It's going against your ingrained emotions, your reactions. It means taking notes on these videos. It means doing something different, like setting up a call if you haven't yet, okay? Now, Jeff Olson talks about these little micro behaviors in his book, The Slight Edge. He says, the difference between success, winning your wife back, and failure, you know what that looks like. It's not dramatic. In fact, the difference between success and failure is so subtle, so mundane, that most people miss it. It's these small promises that you keep to yourself, despite the setbacks, okay? It is doing what you say you'll do. It is not listening to the hopelessness inside of you, that part of you that just wants to give up, right? It's sticking through it and trusting that you're on the right path, despite the evidence to the contrary, okay? It's having that faith. That's how you put in the work, and that's how you lead yourself. Now, the second part of this leading is called relational leadership, and it means inviting your wife forward with calm, clarity, and without pressure. To lead your wife means you lead by example, and then she follows. She will start with curiosity, asking you about your day. How are you actually doing? And she'll follow it with a test. I saw this the other day on one of the posts in the community, okay? It's classic. We see it all the time, all right? Stay in your own energy. Lead yourself. She will notice when you no longer need her as much, but you want her in your life. That is the key to all of this, that he masters it. Every single guy that saves their marriage, they understand this intuitively in their heart, okay, that they are good without her. Yes, you want your wife in your life, but you don't need her. And that is self-love. That is your own value. And that's what she's drawn to, someone who is valuable, okay? Listen to this last part of our conversation.
Like, you're like this great guy that everyone loves and appreciates. And like, here I am, like, I had to recognize, like, this isn't who I am. This isn't what I'm capable of living up to. This isn't the father I want to represent. This isn't the husband I want to be. And, I think at some point when you don't recognize you're this person who can do more, you think you're like this great guy. And you're like, are you really a great guy? What are your values? How are you living up to them? How are you keeping an edge? How are you doing these different things? You just think because of merit and all the different good acts you've done across your time that holds up, and it's not. That's BS. That's not how it works. You know it, and I know it. So.
Yeah, that's an honest self-inventory, and it goes back to the ego idea as well, right? So
yeah,
it hurts on the front end, right? But that process of hurting on the front end, much like working out, it brings dividends on the back end.
Yeah, that's right.
When you do all of these steps, okay, you own it, you lead on, you stand tall, you frame up, that's when your wife starts to relax around you. That's when you become a source of value, okay? Her voice will start to soften. She'll smile more. She'll reach out to you. She'll send you longer text messages. These are all signs that she's opening up. I don't care if a moment later, a week later, a day later, she says, oh, I'm moving forward with the divorce. Look at the positive signs, okay? That is the key. Now, there's another marriage that we saved right here. The really good story that I want you to check out. Again, I prefer you check out a call down below with our team to really take different action to get different results. I'll see you in the next one, man. Cheers.